Imagine finding a book written over 2,000 years ago that's so ruthless, so brutally practical, that it's still being studied today by spies, CEOs, and world leaders. Well, that book is real. It's called the Arthashastra, and it's an ancient Indian masterclass in how to get power and, more importantly, how to hold on to it. So let's dive into this incredible work of strategy. Right out of the gate, its author Kautilya gives us the core idea. Power is not a one-person show. A kingdom, a state, a company, it's all a machine. And just like any machine, a single wheel spinning on its own goes nowhere. Every single part has to work together. This one quote really sets the stage for the entire text. This is the instruction manual for building that machine and making sure your wheel of power never, ever stops turning. So here's how we're going to break down Kautilya's genius. We're going to follow his blueprint in 4 key parts. First, we'll get a handle on what this text really is. Then, we'll look at how to build the perfect state from the ground up. After that, we're diving into the shadows with his legendary spy network. And finally, we'll get into the grand strategy, how to master the game of foreign policy and war. Okay, so what are we really looking at here? The Arthashastra is basically the world's first guide to real politic. That's politics based on what's practical, not what's moral or idealistic. This book isn't about how to be a good king, it's about how to be an effective one. You know, the name itself tells you everything you need to know. Artha in Sanskrit is a really powerful word. It means wealth, sure, but it also means prosperity, power, and worldly success. So this isn't just the science of politics, it's more like the science of material well-being. It's a complete guide to making sure the state and, the king is rich and powerful in every way imaginable. To give you some perspective here, Kautilya, who also went by the name Chanakya, was writing this around the same time as Aristotle in Greece. He was the mastermind who helped build a massive empire, and then his work was just lost. For almost 2,000 years, it vanished, until a dusty old manuscript was rediscovered in 1905. Now, its cold, hard logic is being taught in business schools and studied by intelligence agencies all over the planet. So if this is the playbook, what does the state it describes actually look like? Well, before a king can even think about his enemies, he has to completely master his own kingdom. And Kautilya's vision for that is, well, it's all about absolute meticulous control. For Kautilya, the state is this perfectly organized system where nothing, and I mean nothing, is left to chance. Every industry, every resource, every single person has a very specific job, and all of it is managed from the top down. This isn't just government, this is total, all-encompassing administration. The level of detail here is it's mind-blowing. Kautilya didn't just suggest a government, he designed it down to the tiniest role. He laid out plans for dozens of superintendents to oversee literally everything. We're talking weaving, liquor production, even the royal elephants. Nothing was too small to be managed, controlled, and of course, taxed for the good of the state. It's a level of micromanagement that would make a modern CEO's head spin. And if you think the bureaucracy was busy, just take a look at the king. You might think he's sitting on a throne all day, right? Nope, not a chance. He is the central gear in this entire machine, and Kautilya's schedule for him is absolutely brutal. The day is split into 16 parts, each with a specific duty. He's reviewing finances, meeting citizens, inspecting the army, and even his nights are packed with meetings with secret agents. The king is, without a doubt, the hardest working person in the kingdom. Okay, now we get to the part of the Arthashastra that has fascinated and, frankly, terrified people for centuries: the spy network. For Kautilya, information wasn't just power, it was the ultimate tool of control. Kautilya's approach to spying was way ahead of its time. This wasn't something you just did during a war. No, this was a permanent, essential, 24/7 operation. The whole point was to know everything about everyone, from your top minister to a random farmer, so that any potential threat, like disloyalty or rebellion, could be spotted and stamped out before it even got started. And the reach of this network was just staggering. Kautilya recommended using agents from every single part of society. You'd have spies disguised as students, as holy men, as merchants, even as beggars. The network was designed to be everywhere. And he even had specialists, like firebrands, which were basically assassins, and poisoners for when simple surveillance just wasn't going to cut it. So, how do you make sure your own top officials are loyal? This is where Kautilya gets truly diabolical. He created something called the temptation tests. Spies would secretly test ministers by hitting their weak spots: their religion, their greed, their lust, and their fear. If a minister passed all 4 tests, great. He was proven to be loyal, but if he failed any of them, well, let's just say he was quietly dealt with. It was the ultimate and most ruthless internal security check imaginable. All right, so the kingdom is locked down. It's run by a perfect administration and watched over by a web of spies. Now, the king has to look outwards. He's got to deal with his neighbors, and every single one of them is a potential rival in this great game of power. And here, Kautilya draws a very sharp line in the sand. The stakes could not be higher. He says a wise king, one who really understands statecraft, can start with almost nothing and end up conquering the world. But a foolish or corrupt king, no matter how much power he starts with, is doomed to lose it all. Talk about motivation to get it right. So what does a wise king do? Kautilya gives him 6 crystal clear foreign policy options. And this is pure pragmatism. There's no talk of honor or friendship or loyalty. The choice is simple. Figure out if you're stronger or weaker than your enemy and act accordingly. If they're stronger, make peace. If you're stronger, go to war. If you're equal, just wait and watch. Every single decision is a cold, hard calculation of power. It's basically ancient game theory. The book is also full of incredibly specific, practical military advice. We might think about cavalry or archers, but Kautilya saw war elephants as the ancient world's main battle tank. He was convinced they were the decisive weapon on the battlefield, the key to smashing enemy lines. It's a great reminder that this book is as much a field manual as it is a political guide. And this right here really gets to the core of Kautilya's strategic thinking. A full-scale war is expensive, it's messy, and it's unpredictable. It should always be your last option. Why risk everything in an open battle when you can get what you want through cheaper, quieter methods? Things like spreading dissent in your enemy's ranks, using poison, launching disinformation campaigns. For Kautilya, these weren't just acceptable, they were the preferred way of doing things. So at the end of the day, we're left with this huge question. Is the Arthashastra a blueprint for a totalitarian surveillance state, a how-to guide for a ruthless tyrant, or is it a pragmatic manual for creating a strong, stable, and prosperous nation in what was a very dangerous world? The text doesn't give us any easy answers, and that's exactly why, over 2,000 years later, we are still debating its chillingly effective lessons on power.